Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my wonderful interviews. Are you somebody who's feeling a little bit thirsty, fancy a glass of water, going to the tap and getting that lovely clear liquid and just knocking it back and thinking, wow, that was good, nice bit of healthy water? Well, think again, because you don't know what's in your water. But I have a lovely lady on the line who knows exactly what is in the water and whether it's good or not so good for us. And this is Joy Warren, who is the National Coordinator of the Fluoride Free Alliance in the UK. And yes, I said fluoride. Joy, welcome to the show.
Hello there, Richard. Thank you so much for asking me on.
It's absolute pleasure. This is something that people have been telling me about, and I've got a filter jug at home. It's probably not doing the right work. I have got a distiller, which I do boil up the water and grab the vapors, but it's very expensive because it takes about 5 hours to give you a few litres of water. Fluoride is something that people are worried about, but other people say, but it's good for the teeth. It's very good. The dentists recommend it. It's in the toothpaste. There's so much confusion. So we need to find what's true and what's not true. And you, as I said, are the national coordinator. You've been doing this for 20 years of the Fluoride Free Alliance. Put my teeth back in, UK. So do tell us. Let's go through some things. We've got some slides we can show as well. Do tell us about the good or the bad of fluoride.
Right, good. Nah, I can't think of anything good to say about it.
Oh,
Although
right.
there are some dentists, dentists who believe that the fluoride in our toothpaste has stopped dental decay to a certain extent, but it will never completely stop it. As far as being put in the drinking water, it is the most awful intervention ever invented by mankind. And is a terrific amount of political persuasion behind it, commercial persuasion. The dentists love it, or they don't know much about it, but they're told to love it. It's yeah, it has life because of political aspirations and money.
Is fluoride a byproduct of something else? That's what I've heard.
Right, we have to start looking at space fertilizer manufacture. And they start off with the ore, ORE, which is fluorapatite ore, which is taken out of bench mines or even open surface cut mining. And it's crushed with boiling sulfuric acid to extract phosphate. That is the
Right.
payload. And everything else are waste. And the
Oh,
waste is silica because it's a crystal, a dirty purple colored crystal in some cases. Oh, so many different colors, in fact, but the purple one is the most obvious one. It also got trace metals of heavy metals. I can give you run through them if you want me to. Is arsenic and antimony, cadmium, chromium, lead, mercury, nickel, and selenium. Although selenium is fine because that's a beneficial mineral.
right. Yes.
But also, when the waste leaves the phosphate factory, it has to be washed out of the chimney because we're talking about gases trying to escape into the atmosphere. It's washed down the chimney by scrubbing liquor, also known as factory floor water. And that also contains a lot of elements. So a total number of elements, about 20 or 30 different trace elements in the waste, which is washed down into road tankers ready for taking over the world to other countries who want to use it for fluoridation. It's to use for etching motherboards. It's
Right.
an industrial application, but most of it is sold to fluoridating water companies.
Good. What would be I mean, there you are. You've got water, say, coming out of the aquifer, or coming down from the rain. And what would be the benefit for anybody to put this in the water? I mean, what is the official reason that they would want to put it in the? Is it supposed to be for our health, to keep our teeth clean and to clear our mind and make us more buoyant and jolly and happy and all of those things that you would imagine a company would have our best interest as customers?
And it's not the water companies who are powering this, it's the governments. And
Right.
they
Oh, the
are being
government.
powered by their establishment and by the British Dental Association, the American Dental Association, the Australian Dental Association, and the New Zealand Dental Association. Um,
So you
and
wouldn't think
obviously
that the
all
dent.
the industrialists who want to get rid of the waste. It's not
Right. Oh, I see.
put it
So
in.
it's really, we've got this waste. We don't know what to do with it. We could shove it in the rivers and it would disappear, but we could actually just shove it in the water system and then people can consume it and it's not our problem anymore.
It's fed into the water supply. It's poured into the rivers if you were polluting and you shouldn't be. The um, the amount of fluoride or the fluoridating acid which is drunk is about 2%. The rest
It's
goes
how,
to
it's
waste.
what percent?
2%.
2%.
Yeah, because obviously you think about how much water you waste in your house. Most of it goes
Yes.
down the toilet or in the washing
Yes.
machine or dishwasher. Very
Yes.
little is drunk.
So is that what they think is, well, that's okay then, not very much is drunk. So it's only 2%, it's not going to harm you.
Well be it, yes, but it's a nice way to get rid of it by feeding it into the water supply, then into the rivers via the sewage works, then into the estuaries, and then into the sea, which is where it shouldn't be in the first place. But this
Which,
time it's well diluted.
right, okay. So how long have we had this? I mean, I'm a bit of a strange person. I read a lot of old books of perhaps they say in the 1930s of rural villages and things. I love all that. And I remember reading about when they were saying, oh, we've got this pipe water coming in soon, or we've got electricity, or we've got, these things coming in. Before that, they just got water out of wells and streams and boiled that up and drank that, and they were, completely unfluorided. So how long have we been putting fluoride into the water?
Well, since we've had the piped water and local authorities were in charge of the water boards, and then in 1955, America persuaded Great Britain to trial this fluoride idea because, look, it really helps to stop dental decay in tiny tots. Nobody was looking at the health harms
Right.
of swallowing um, fluorine gas, which has been translated into not a solid, but it's an ion. And fluoride has got one more electron, therefore it makes it very electronegative. That's why it's supposed to be dangerous to our health. But the whole idea was Britain was persuaded to try these demonstrations. So they started off with 4 demonstration towns and 4 control towns, and they just basically put it in the drinking water. At the time, it was sodium fluoride. Sodium fluoride is the dewatered version of the acid which we use today. And the dewatering actually dries off the hydrogen, and you get crystalline form. So they were putting these sodium fluoride crystals into the drinking water of 4 demonstration towns and not in the water of the 4 control towns. That was 1955. And in 1958, one of the towns, which was demonstration, said, no, we don't want it anymore. They out their local authority, put new councillors in, and the next day they stopped fluoridation. And the other 3 gradually stopped up until about 1991, when Anglesey was the last one, and that stopped because Dor Cymru, the Welsh Water Company, said we're not going to do it anymore because the government will not indemnify us if
Right.
anybody accuses us of harming their health. Was the last one. But in the meantime, other cities and regions of England started fluoridation. In
I see.
64, they started fluoridation in Birmingham. This is not recorded in any history book, but I've sorted it in my own mind that the reason why dental decay in Birmingham was so bad was because part of the city was getting really soft water from Wales, from the Elan Valley. The city needed the water because of the expanding population, but I don't think anybody realized at the time that the water was so soft, there was no magnesium in it. And in 1964, the dental decay of the children was so bad, they had to do something, and they decided to fluoridate Birmingham, Greater Birmingham, and then the West Midlands completely because they thought it was a
Gosh.
good idea.
So no one thought, hang on a minute, we've got this problem of dental decay. Maybe kids are eating too much sugar and fizzy drinks and all the other bad things that we actually need, again, a sticking plaster, which has a lot of other bad effects, but never mind those, because as long as those kids have got this minor bit of protection on their teeth, it doesn't matter if we calcify their brains or whatever else goes on. I mean, nothing surprises me these days with what measures the government decide to do for us poor innocent people. So your original four towns are sort of slowly stopped over what sounds like 40 odd years it took them to halt. Meanwhile, all these other ones have been starting to do it. So how many towns at the moment, how much of the UK is fluorided with this stuff?
Okay, the stuff, believe it or not, is called hexafluorosilicic acid. But don't worry about it, it's H2SO with added goodnesses.
Right.
Not goodness, badnesses.
Yes.
At the moment, 6 million people in England are fluoridated. About another 500,000 get natural fluoride, and that's about 10% of England, and
10%.
only England.
And only in England. And so I'm just going to show a personal interest in here, down on the south coast in Sussex. Do you know if Sussex is currently fluorided?
You're safe at the moment. But the government really wants to fluoridate the whole of England. But
Do they?
it'll never get as far as London.
It'll never get. So is London clear?
London is fortunate in that it's got some very important, influential people living in it.
Oh yes, yes. So they can't. They don't want to do their own, do they? So that's really interesting. So it's a byproduct of something, and they're trying to get shot of it, and so they've been doing this. There is such a huge interest in what goes into the water. I mean, I know running this channel, a lot of people are saying I don't want to pay for the water because there's so many other things in it that's not clear. What do we do to stop it? I mean, you've been campaigning on this for 20 years. Is anybody listening?
Yes, lots of people are gradually listening. And this year, because we've got this thing in America, court case going ahead on the 31st of January for 2 weeks, where the judge is being asked to finally decide to claim that fluoride is a known developmental neurotoxin in the same way as lead is. We're hoping
Wow.
that the rest of the year will be taken up with lots of American cities and states stopping it. And
And if they
that's
and if they stop it, are we likely to follow suit? Do we seem to be the sort of little puppy that follows in whatever America does?
Yes, I think possibly that would be the case. And I think the government is soft pedaling at the moment. A, we've got an election coming up. B, they've not announced the public consultation for the Northeast, which we have been expecting now for a year. C, they haven't done an environment risk assessment, a health risk assessment, and a cost benefit analysis. You can't go out to public consultation for a whole area expecting people to say yes or no, we want it, when you haven't provided them with all the information they need.
It's funny that, isn't it? Because only a few years ago we were told to get a certain medical intervention that hadn't had a cost-benefit analysis and indemnities and all those sort of things that you just mentioned. The government don't really have much of a track record on these, especially anything to do with health. These, oh, excuse me, something's just popped up. They don't seem to have much of a track record in anything to do with health, or in fact anything to do with IT or any of these things. And what with the sub-postmaster thing coming out, why anyone can trust governments per se is beyond me. So what does it in and of itself, what are the real dangers that fluoride can present to us?
Right, well, we've just touched on reduced intelligence, and I need to
Yes.
really explain the situation there. And I have to say now, our NHS administrators are in favour of fluoridation.
The
I don't know why.
NHS.
Oh, yeah, I don't know why, but there you go. We know that the unborn child is exposed to fluoride if the mother drinks fluoridated water, drinks Indian tea, that's their ordinary black tea with milk added, has pharmaceutical medication which contains fluoride, a lot too. If their food is made up with fluoridated tap water, if they bathe in fluoridated tap water, there is a suspicion that the body takes in some of the fluoride, and especially if it's hydrogen fluoride in that bath water. And we have proof of that from back in the 1930s. You know, the times you like reading? I do as well, because the old research is very, very good. It was done without any political persuasion, as it were, stopping it being
Yes.
published. And the one we've got is the 1932 research report by a guy called Dr. Galitza von Mundi from Austria. In those days, Vienna had very nice water, but it had too much iodine in it. Iodine is essential for thyroid health. If you have too much, you become hyperthyroid, which means your metabolism runs away and you don't put on weight. And these people were just basically dying because they were wearing themselves out. His idea of curing them was to put them into warm baths of water to which a modicum of hydrogen fluoride had been added. That's very, very easily absorbed by the skin. And after about 7 baths over a course of about a year, 13, 14 months, they were cured in that they put on weight and their metabolism slowed down. Earlier experiments are done on tadpoles, where you have tadpoles in hydrogen fluoride bath water, and you have a control group in ordinary pond water. So pond water and hydrogen fluoride, pond water. And
Right.
the tadpoles, which were exposed to hydrogen fluoride, delayed their metamorphosis.
They
Delayed the metamorphosis of the tadpoles if they were in hydrogen fluoride. I was talking about a tiny, tiny amount, but it's very, very
yes.
powerful.
Yes.
In larger amounts, it is very, very dangerous because it burns the body by
Right.
going straight into the skin
Yes.
and burning the cells.
And that's, I mean, that's the case with so many things, that a small amount of something is good for you, but we can overdose on things very easily. Too much water, for example, you drink too many glasses of water it can damage you, whether it's got fluoride in or anything else, if you overdose on it. But you really have to go for it for that.
Having
But
said that, Richard, there's no lower amount of fluoride which is safe for the unborn child to ingest, or not ingest,
right,
but take into via the placenta and the umbilical cord. And also it's in the amniotic fluid as well, which also is absorbed by the baby's skin. So there's no blood-brain barrier in the fetus.
right,
All the fluoride which goes into the mother will eventually go into the bloodstream, through the placenta,
and into the brain.
into the brain. Yeah.
Gosh.
And that's where I have to really just very, very gently explain that fluoride poisons enzymes. Enzymes are required to facilitate all the good processes we have in our bodies. If your enzymes are poisoned, then the processes won't occur. And therefore, in our case, in this particular instance, the intelligence will not develop. And this is permanent damage to the intelligence. That child will
Right.
never reach its full potential. And it gets
Gosh.
worse. It gets worse. Once it's born, if it's bottle fed with tap water containing fluoride, that increases or it continues the reduction in intelligence.
So in other words, somebody who's got what these formulas and they just use tap water. I know we've got some slides because I had a look through them, and there's a slide there that you have. I wonder if I can get it up because it says even bottled water is not as good.
Mm. Bottled water is not encouraged by the NHS
Let me just
because,
shove.
but that is because it's supposed to have too much sodium in it and too many sulfates. But that, in fact, is not true. And
Oh, right.
we've demonstrated with NHS crisis 3 times, and they still won't change that particular recommendation. The
Oh,
sodium and sulfate in tap water is higher than it is in British bottled water, or bottled
and
water sold in this country.
is it some bottled water? Does any bottled water contain fluoride, or is it purely in the tap water?
There are some French waters which were imported into England about 3, 4 years ago, sold by Costco. Um, it's called Kirkland water, but they stopped doing it. I found out there was fluoride in this particular French water and discussed this with trading standards.
Right.
Um,
So generally, people are safe with bottled water.
Generally, because Badwa is no longer sold in this country, I would say keep clear of San Pellegrino, which has got zero 0.5 milligrams fluoride per litre. But all the others are very, very low or non-existent as far as fluoride is concerned.
Right.
And
So
I need to
if
explain here, I do have a fluoride analysis set up upstairs
oh, do
where I
you?
can, yeah.
So you can test this stuff, which is great. So yes. So if people are watching this, young mums who are getting the doing formula and not feeding on the breast or whatever, or doing it as well as, for God's sake, don't use tap water, particularly if you're in an area that is in the Midlands or all these other areas.
Correct. And
But
in fact, because plastic bottles have got such bad rap, the only thing you can use really is distilled water for the formula.
yes, gosh. So unless of course you live next to number 10, when the water will be very clean down there. So, anyway, so yes, um, you were talking about babies and starting that early. And so if you've got fluoride in you, if you've been poisoned by this stuff, is there anything that you can do? Is it just, I mean, apart from the damage to your brain, is there anything that you can mitigate other than just stopping the water? Does the body repair itself to repel this evil?
It can to a certain extent, but fluoride does like to go into the bones, where especially it likes calcifying organs, in other words. It can stay in your bones unless you make a concerted effort, stop having any fluoride going into your body whatsoever. And you obviously have to start chelating out the fluoride. But of course, in the bones, it's pretty stubborn because it's sort of cemented in, if you like.
Yes.
It weakens bones. It fires them, but weakens them paradoxically. That because it stops the collagen production in the
Oh,
bones,
right.
but it densifies them because it has an effect on the osteoclasts and osteoblasts. Um, and what happens then? The bones become densified but more brittle because there's no resilience, no whippiness. So we've got a really important piece of research from Scandinavia, 2021, April 21, which showed that elderly ladies living in fluoride areas, that's natural fluoride areas, have for 50% more hip fracture than elderly ladies living in non-fluoride areas.
Right. You
Um,
said natural. You said natural fluoride areas. Is it that it would just, because it's in the ground, it would leach into the water table, and so those natural areas you're going to get a touch of fluoride.
Correct, yes, we do have
Right.
natural fluoride areas in Britain. In Scandinavia, they definitely do. They don't do fluoridation over there, of course. We have got one area to the northeast called Hartlepool, which has got 1.9 milligrams, which is quite a lot. 1.9 milligrams of fluoride in the drinking water is magnesium fluoride. That's reduced down by dilution to 1.3 milligrams. It's still 0.3 more than is put into our drinking water. The children there have got really good teeth, which is very strange until you realize that it's magnesium fluoride, and magnesium is incredibly good for teeth.
Ah, right. Yes.
They've got
So
more
the
magnesium than fluoride, so they are much better. But you see,
right.
National Health Service dentists don't want to know about that because that really kiboshes their theory that fluoride is good for teeth.
So yes. So the fluoride is really irrelevant. It's the magnesium that's doing the job.
Correct. As I said, in West Birmingham, there's so little magnesium in the drinking water. The children there have got really bad teeth, even though they've got fluoride in the drinking water.
Yes. Oh, that's. I mean, that's so interesting because I mean, we're hearing this. I was slightly unrelated, but it's a similar sort of thing that I was reading reports about smoking, And it seems there's more people dying of lung cancer, which in the past people could say, oh, well, that's all down to smoking, isn't it? Well, there's so few people smoking now, and yet there are an increase in lung cancer. And you go, well, hold on a minute, it's obviously not the smoking that's the only cause, shall we say. And it seems, as you said, if fluoride if fluoride's in the drinking water in and around Birmingham, but all their teeth are oh like that, hello, I've had a nice bit of water, then, as you say, that the whole thing just falls apart.
Does. I've had a look at some locality supplements for the area. That means they're the supplements which are not published but feed into the oral health surveys. You only see one figure for Birmingham, but you need to really have a look at the district figures. And the three districts which are to the east of the reservoir, which provides the soft Welsh water, their dental decay for 5-year-olds of the children examined, one has got 50%, 50%
50.
okay, of the children, these are 5-year-olds, the children examined. Another one's got 34, and another one's got 28%. The England average for 5-year-old dental decay is 23.4%, quite high. But Ladywood in Birmingham gets the soft water directly from the Elan Valley via the reservoir, and that's 50%. That's inexcusable. It's really
Yes.
bad news.
Gosh, that I mean, to get on the waiting list to see a dentist as well.
Yeah.
Is, but this is, I mean, as you say, this is absolutely inexcusable. But in your 20 years of telling authority, and particularly the government who are shoving this stuff in, how much do they listen? Do they give lip service? And do they do anything about it? I mean, clearly they're not doing anything about it because it's still going on.
Well, yes, of course. It's now back with the Department of Health Secretary of State, who has the final say on everything, and local authorities do not have a say in anything at all now. 2 years ago, they did. They
Right.
moved it to the government because local authorities were not having much success at getting new fluoridation schemes in. And the last one in England was 1987. And ever since then, public opinion polls, people like me and other organizations like, for example, National Pure Water Association, which unfortunately has gone into retirement, they were very, very effective at contacting local authority councillors, contacting everybody they could with influence to stop this thing happening. And the people who were, the actual residents who were consulted said, no, we don't want it.
Mm.
Southampton, 2008, 2009, they had a consultation. They had 10,000 people take part. 7,200 said, no, we don't want it. That's pretty good. The
Yes.
10,000 in a public consultation. Unfortunately, at that time, the Strategic Health Authority said, no, we know better, and they want to go ahead and do it anyway.
Oh, yes, they always know better, don't they? These highly educated people with such great knowledge.
But see, nothing happened because by 2014, Public Health England took over from the Strategic Health Authorities. They decided they wanted another part of Southampton to be fluoridated. So they would have to start the public consultation all over again. And that's when it fell. Nothing happened, fortunately.
Right. Do you think there's a bigger public awareness of it now?
No, not really.
Really?
We're trying our absolute best to get it onto the internet. Unfortunately, newspapers have been warned off about talking about it.
Right. Oh, that's interesting. Well, let's see whether this video is going to be banned or not, because we've been talking about fluoridization. There was a question that went through my head just now that I thought was relevant, and it's now disappeared. We're in a we're in a sort of catch-22 then. We've got to get the government. I don't understand why the NHS, surely, maybe I do because of the recent intervention that they gave us all have. There seemed to be a financial interest in all of this that trumps everything else. Is that fair to say?
We're talking about the dental contract and the money that's gone back to the central government recently because they couldn't spend it on dentists, which is really bad news, which is ridiculous because we couldn't find the dentist. Oh,
Right.
a couple of years back during COVID, this is why retiring or retiring early, there weren't as many students going through dental school. So we are going to definitely have a reduction in available NHS dentists. And unless we get more trained dentists from abroad, which is less now because we're no longer part of the EU, we're still going to experience a lesser dentists to help with the children who have got dental decay and have toothache. If that's the case, then clearly they're going to be using fluoridation as a panacea.
Yes, and promote that and say, if you've got fluoride in the water, that's the best way to protect you. And obviously the reverse is so true. The water companies themselves, I think you said they don't really have much control of this. If enough people go to their local water, I mean, we've got Southern Water here, but as you say, they're not putting it in. But just for the sake of argument, suppose they were, if enough people were to march on or complain or write or ring or whatever, does that make any difference? Or have they just got to stick to government policy?
No, the water companies have to stick to government policy. They have to add 1 milligram of fluoride per litre. And in actual fact, that's 6.3 milligrams of the fluoridating acid to each litre of water. They have to do it. That's the law. They can't get away from it. There's nothing to stop them from having put it in, diluting the water with non-fluoride water or non-fluoridated water from outside that particular area. So we're finding the levels of fluoride in drinking water are sort of quietly reducing. It has been for the last few years. But because it cannot be changed, we cannot stop the law saying 1 milligram, we still have to keep up with a fight against fluoridation.
So that's interesting. I think that there is a law or a piece of legislation, let's say, that says they have to do it, that some bunch of people got together, well, MPs presumably, and dreamt up this rather horrible law that we've now got. So presumably the only thing then is to say, well, we'd like that law to be changed.
How do you get a law repealed?
Well, I think a lot of people would love to know how you do that, because there's plenty of laws that we would like repealed. Mm-hmm. Is it a lengthy process?
I would imagine it is, yes.
Yes.
And then would have to go through the courts.
Yeah. Yes. So, but that would be the only way, because the water companies, the treatment centres, as they, I suppose, they treat the water, and they have to do it. Which is, a lot of people won't know that, will they? A lot of people won't know that this is a legal requirement. Can people put pressure onto their MPs and say, we don't like this? This is just not cricket?
Well, the more letters you send to your MP, the better, the more they will take notice.
Yes.
Unless, of course, they're getting money or shares,
yes,
or whatever, or they're hoping for a job when they retire with the water company.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, a lot of faith and confidence has gone in government officials because of the recent times, I think, and a lot of people have been contacting their MPs on a number of things. Whether those MPs will be here in 6 to 9 months' time after a general election, who knows? But the next bunch may well be going around knocking on doors and with their begging bowl. And one thing I suppose we can say to these potential MPs is we don't want any fluoridation. Thank you very much.
We can say that, but they will still go their own sweet way because, for example, my MP is on the health committee.
Oh, right.
She's ex-NHS employee.
And she won't be budged.
She's not listening to me.
How else can we get the message out, Joy? How can we help to the viewers here absolutely do not want to be poisoned, even if it improves their smile just tinily. They don't want to be dumbed down and have their intelligence, their children, and all of it. What can we do?
Well, the first thing we can do to make ourselves feel empowered and less disenfranchised is to stop paying our water charges.
Right. That's that's quite. I mean, we talk about law and legal on this channel a lot, and a lot of people are not paying, or at least challenging, what would be the best? What would be the best excuse? Not excuse, reason. What would be the best reason for saying, well, unless you take it out, I'm not paying?
Right, so they're selling us drinking water. Well, the rest of the country is getting drinking water. 6 million people are not getting drinking water. They're getting medicinal water. We
Yes,
can prove that it is medicine. Where's my wonderful British standard? The title is Chemicals. Can you see that? Okay, right. You see it implies
chemicals used for the treatment of water intended for human consumption, and there it is.
just hold on to the word treatment of water. Treatment of water. You go to page 19 at the back. You can't see this, I'm afraid, as it's too small. I'll read it out to you. Hexafluorosilicic acid is used for the fluoridation of drinking water to increase the resistance of consumers to dental decay.
So you can. So if you say we don't want it, we're not paying until you remove it.
Yeah, it's a resistance, can increase the resistance of consumers. That is not water treatment, that's people treatment.
That's well, yes, that's true.
That's a prophylactic, a preventative medicine.
Absolutely. So on that basis, that's quite sufficient. And can people
No,
download
there's
that?
an extra bit, which is really important. It's
Right. Sorry.
Drinking Water Directive, retain post-Brexit.
Right, drinking water direct. So that's on I saw that's on legislation.gov.
Mm-hmm. And it says in Article 3, exemptions, this directive shall not apply to natural mineral waters, which are your bottled waters, and presumably spa water. And it will not apply to waters which are medicinal products within the meaning of Directive 2001 of 83 EC. So medicinal water, which applies to the Directive 2001, which you don't have here, but it's okay. Medicinal water is not drinking water, and the guidelines and the standards for drinking water do not apply to medicinal water according to this retained primary law, the directive.
Right. So even the law says they should not be supplying it.
The law says that it's not protected by the Drinking Water Directive. Now,
right.
Therefore, if they are providing me with medicinal water, I'm not protected by the directive. And therefore, why should I pay for something I'm not protected by standards and guidelines? It's a very sort of interesting way of looking at things. It's product substitution.
Yes, yes. But, and of course, I suppose you're writing to your treatment, your water supplier, who are going, yeah, but we've got this law that says we've got to shove it in, and we're like, well, we can't argue with you.
So what I said to them is, if you take me to court for not paying my water charges, I don't pay for drinking water, but I pay for sewerage, but not drinking water. I pay half. If they take me to court, I will countersue because they're breaking the law.
Right. So it's an interesting point you say there about you pay for half. And I had an argument with a friend who said, well, I'm not paying my water at all. And I said, well, what about the water that you flush down the loo or you pull the plug out of the bath? They are providing that service at least. Otherwise, you'd have to do it like the old days and throw your little potty out the window at some unsuspecting person passing by, as they did in the Tudor times. At least you're paying for that. And he did sort of go, oh, yeah, actually, I hadn't thought of that.
So and that will protect him from being taken to court, because any judge will say, well, Mrs. Warren, you're being really reasonable here. You're paying for your sewerage. You're not paying for drinking water. Can you justify? And you'll trot out the things. And the third thing is they're definitely breaking the very law they are quoting at us and telling us they will take us to court on, because they are told they have to do it. Therefore, they have to get the money from us, as it were.
Yes.
But they're adding a third compound of fluoride to the drinking water when they add hexafluorosilicic acid. The Water Industry Act 1991 says you can only add one of two compounds. They're not allowed to add a third one.
Oh, see.
The third one is hydrofluoric acid, which is a really poisonous, dangerous one. It's a very small amount, but even so, it's adventitious pollution.
Why should we have it in the water anyway?
Why should we? I wouldn't want to have hydrogen fluoride.
No.
I read a research report a few days ago where it told me if you've got hydrogen fluoride in your stomach, or you've got fluoride and hydrochloric acid. The hydro of the hydrochloric acid join up with the fluoride, and it's capable of getting through the stomach lining in 0.005 seconds
Blimey.
as a compound. When it gets inside the cells, the alkaline nature of those cells means that the fluoride and the hydrogen decombine, and that's when the fluoride in the cell damage.
Gosh, that doesn't sound very nice.
Doesn't, does it? So we
No.
keep away from hydrofluoric acid. That's why it's always better to distill water, use reverse osmosis, do anything but drink tap water in a fluoridated area.
Yes. Yes. Gosh, I mean, people, people drink. We have to drink water because that's otherwise we don't survive, and we've become so dependent now on what comes out the tap, and of course, you can't go to streams and things because you never no idea what's in that. But at least you've got some idea of what's in your tap, even though you may know it's not quite right for you, and there are these. Somewhat expensive ways. I mean, I know, as I said at the beginning, with the what do you call it, where you boil it up, the distilling process. Just stick a few juniper berries in there, and you might do some gin at the same time. No, that's illegal. You can't do that. But it's very, it's time consuming.
Yeah.
It's expensive. I know people who have then sent invoices to their local water treatment centre and said, well, I'm now distilling the water so I can actually drink it, and this is what it's costing me. I would like to charge you.
I did that to begin with. This is my third attempt. The first one was really everything was recorded, the receipts, the till receipts, everything. Lots and lots and lots of letters. It was like water off a duck's back.
Really?
The second time they caught me out by sending me an appointment to go and see the county court in the week I was on holiday away from England. I had to capitulate. The third one, this has been going for 3 years now. And yeah, I just have minimal contact. If they send me a letter saying we're taking you to county court, I will just say, okay, I'll be seeing my solicitor tomorrow and we'll be countersuing.
Right. Yeah. And so I guess it's a numbers game. I mean, the more people that do this, they have to take notice.
And we're putting pressure on the water companies who put pressure on the Office for Health Improvement and Disparities, which is what Public Health England used to be.
Yes.
Other way around. It was PHE to begin with.
Yes.
So the more pressure we put on the establishment, on the civil servants, on the so-called experts, the more the politicians will listen, or they'll get cold feet.
Yes. And yeah, absolutely. And as you say, there is an election coming, so maybe they're a bit more receptive to being at least paying lip service. But it's not just lip service we want.
No,
we want a conclusion.
Now, Keir Starmer's talking about toothbrushing classes in schools and nurseries, and this is the first breakthrough we've had politically for some time. If he does actually keep his word and he does that, that's great, because this is what Scotland's doing. The region children had really bad tooth decay, and they now get toothbrushing classes, right from an early age, and it has reduced the dental decay enormously. Unfortunately, they're using fluoridated toothpaste.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's the other thing that, again, it's very hard to find toothpaste that doesn't have fluoride in. We use a non-fluoride toothpaste. And of course, people can make their own. I mean, I've had a lady on the show a few years ago, and she made her own. But again, it is time consuming, and we're so used to, in this very convenient world of doing of just purchasing it because it's there, and you buy the cheap stuff and it's got the poison in it.
Or most of them have got fluoride in now. If you do a quick survey of the supermarket shelves, you won't find any. Yeah, but you can do. I mean, aloe vera is a really good one. Aloe dent, sorry. And you can just make it with bicarbonate soda and coconut oil.
Oh, there you go. Bicarbonate soda and bicarbonate soda and coconut oil.
And a little bit of peppermint.
And a bit of peppermint to get the taste away, I suppose, or to make it more enjoyable and freshen the mouth. Well, this is here we are. So, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? You say that Keir Starmer, so the Labour Party have got, and this is something that's always difficult, I think, because you know they'll give you an inch over here, and then they'll take a mile over there, and it's so difficult to work out which party is ever going to be in your favour. It does always seem to work out that whatever's promised in the manifesto suddenly is thrown away because there's another crisis coming down, and so that you know, taking the fluoride out of the water in schools or wherever is suddenly disappears. How do we trust anybody unless they actually just right across the board all agree and it's done?
We can't trust anybody in the politics world. I don't think so. As soon as Starman gets in, they probably forget about it. You're quite right. Yeah.
Yes, and so this is where people need to be on their guard, because the politicians, when they open their mouths, they certainly don't tend to be telling any truths. He says, but it does seem to be the case. I mean, history reveals all of that. And we see it all the time. Even the WEF at the moment having their Davos meeting about trying to get trust back in everyone, and who's trusting the elites? I think the grassroots and what you're doing and what many other people are doing of saying, look, here's the truth, here's the honest truth of, and we've done the research, and more power. People should be listening to the people, not the people who think that they know better than anybody else.
That's very true, but it's so difficult to get that sort of thing through to them.
Yes.
I know the full truth of the issue. I don't think politicians have time to read up on it. They take the word of their experts, of their establishments, the Humphrey Applebees, as it were.
Yes.
Because they've got some sort of reason behind making sure that we're fluoridated. I mean,
Yes.
it could just be a simple case of people having shares in the Aluminium Company of America, because if they lose part of their dividend, it'll be because the company's had extra expenses of neutralizing their waste.
Right. And because of that, they're not making as much money, and so it's far easier to get it into the water, as you said. You've got a couple of websites I wanted to share here so people can find out more information. Let's go to this one. This one first of all, which is your Fluoride Free UK, and
this is the Northeast Water Fluoridation Concerns.
I beg your pardon.
That's all right. Okay, it looks quite good, doesn't it? Really,
it looks fantastic, and look at all that lovely water.
So we set it up because we wanted the people of the Northeast to be able to take part in the public consultation with full knowledge of the issue. Because unless you know what you're writing about, and unless you reference what you're writing about by quoting research studies or law or anything like that, the people looking at the responses to a public consultation will not take you seriously. Yes. And this is what happened in Southampton. Many people said, I don't want it, and that left it at that. Well, they just were ignored because they weren't being erudite. They were thought to have a knee-jerk reaction without knowing exactly what they were talking about. We had a huge campaign in Southampton, and a lot of people were educated. But at the end of the day, they just weren't seen during the public consultation as being knowledgeable enough to say, no, we don't want it. However, when you think about general elections, all you have to do is go along and vote. You're not expected to be knowledgeable about anything.
No, and that's the thing. We I think what we're discovering is that we need to be so much more informed about stuff rather than just willy-nilly stick an X in a box.
Yeah.
So here we go. Some facts here. The fluoriding acid added to your drinking water is industrial hazardous waste, as we've spoken about. There are no studies which have found that fluoride is safe to drink, which is very interesting. And fact 3 here, the fluoridating acid contains arsenic, lead, as you said, as well as hydrofluoric acid, which is a reportable poison. And you've got a map. That's really interesting. And that's showing the areas that is currently got fluoridation.
Mm-hmm.
So there's certainly lots for people to explore on that. And you've also got the other website here, Fluoride Free Alliance. I'll put up both of these links in the
Thank you.
in the description so people can check it out. And I think people are becoming much more aware, certainly in terms of the audience that I have on the sort of the truth freedom movement. But we need to make this, broadly aware to everybody, because there's so much at stake, really. I mean, we rely on good quality water, and arguably, well, clearly, blatantly, we're not getting it.
It's very strange, isn't it? Because the medicine, which we're given 24/7, 52 weeks of the year, the rest of our lives, the dose is uncontrolled. Although the concentration, 1 milligram or less, is controlled, the dose is not. So a child who is really active physically could be drinking 3 litres of fluoridated water a day,
Yes.
while the mother may be drinking 2. But if she's larger, she can take it. The child's got a smaller body. So obviously it's going to be intensified in the body.
Yes, of course. I hadn't thought of that. Yes, and we're drinking that fluid in also, and we drink it in tea, we cook in it. I mean, if you boil it up, that doesn't destroy it, presumably.
No, but don't forget the tea, the Indian tea element. There's
yes.
an awful lot. If families with low income will go for the lower cost teas.
Yes.
And the lower cost teas are made with older leaves, which contain far more fluoride.
Right, because they've been watered with it.
No, they actually take it up from the bedrock.
Do they?
Some of the tea comes from the foothills of the Himalayas, where there is a huge amount of fluoride. There's an awful lot of dental fluorosis and skeletal fluorosis in India because people are drinking well water, and they're having to dig the wells deeper because of the increase in population.
Yes.
And they're bringing up all the minerals and elements, undesirable elements. In some parts of India, it's about 10 milligrams per litre of water.
Oh, I see.
And their teeth are horribly stained with severe dental fluorosis. And they get skeletal fluorosis as well, which is stage 3 arthritis. In other words, bent over back, the poker back, can't walk, it hurts them to do anything. Sometimes their knees are swollen because of the effect of the fluoride increasing the density of the bone. And sometimes the bones don't stop growing. It's horrible to think of.
Oh my gosh.
It's awful. Sometimes they're bedridden, they can't walk. Sometimes they have to crawl around on their knees because the calf bones have grown over the ankles.
Oh my goodness.
That is we don't have it in this country. We have mild skeletal fluorosis, in my opinion, which is stage 1 arthritis.
Good gosh. Yeah. Well, I mean, that is horrific. So it's those cheaper teas that you can, it's an area that you don't even think, isn't it? That in food. And,
yeah. It's just a cup of cheers, isn't it, really? But you're making it up with fluoridated tap water. There's even more fluoride.
So then you just put,
So why would
gosh, we may as well just slit our wrist now and get it over with, mightn't we?
No,
I mean, it's
a quicker way is this way.
Yes, that way. There we go.
Americans haven't traditionally drunk tea, but of course they're drinking more and more. Especially in Canada, we find that they've fluoridated in parts of Canada. They have tea, ordinary Indian tea, with the fluoridated water. Of course, the unborn child is going to be poisoned with fluoride going into its brain.
Yes. I mean, there's part of me, of course, on the basis of some of the stuff that we talk about on this show, thinks that all of this is part of a bigger plan. The poisoning of us in so many different ways, and just this non-caring of us. More expensive. If we all were able to afford more expensive tea, would that be less fluorided?
Yes, it would be. But if you were in a fluoridated area.
Yes, but if you're still so number 10, I'm feeling sorry for the Prime Minister, but I have no reason to, because he'll have very expensive tea from Harrods or somewhere, and good quality water being pumped in. So there's no chance of him keeling over anytime soon. Best less said about that, the better. Joy, it has been a joy to talk to you, but it has been worrying as well, because these facts are quite frightening, and people have really, like so many things, have no knowledge about things we just take for granted, and we're consuming in all our lives we're drinking. And of course, we're passing it on to the next generation, which is, we're so ignorant, aren't we, on so many
We are
things?
indeed. Why would we want to reduce the intelligence of our children?
Yes. Why would we want that?
Yeah.
No, there's well,
And,
this is
and why would we want to increase ill health, which,
yeah.
which causes the NHS more trouble?
Well, exactly. Unless you were selling a lot of pharmaceuticals, for example, there might be a reason for it, but couldn't possibly comment on
You
that.
couldn't comment on that, no.
No, I couldn't. But Joy, thank you for making us aware of this and telling us in a lot more detail. A lot of people have been sort of bandying about fluoride in the water, but it's interesting, all the elements. People can go and find out some more information. And as you say, the biggest step that we can do is, like in so many areas, is to not fund them and push back that way. But don't forget to actually pay for the bit you have taken away.
And yes, it didn't actually say there are other things that we can do. We're working on it at the moment, and this year coming up, it's going to be the make or break year, especially with the American court case and the reduced intelligence. It led eventually, so we're going to break it through.
Fantastic. Yeah, do keep me informed, and later on in the year, if there's some good news, come back on the show and tell us how it's gone.
Okay, thank you so much.
Brilliant. Well, there we are, ladies and gentlemen. What about that? You'll be paused now over, shall I have a cup of tea or shall I nip down to the road and get some bottled water? Just check your area on the map, I suppose. In the meantime, I will be back with more monologues and more wonderful guests. And I think I'm going to have a cup of coffee instead of tea and hope the coffee is all right. Beans of coffee, are they all right, Joy?
Yes.
Yes, there we go.
Oh, hang on a second. I would go for organic.
Go for organic.
Go for organic because the soil used to grow normal coffee beans is not as good as you think it should be.
Blimey, you just can't win. You can't win in this. But we will. We are fighting back, and we've got to stay positive. Joy, thank you for talking to us and telling us all about it. It's been absolutely riveting. And we look forward to you coming back with some good news later on in the year.
Oh, thank you.
Until next time, thanks for watching, everybody. Bye-bye for now.